Let's see. It says live. So let me just check YouTube if this is actually working. It usually takes a couple of seconds until things kickstart. Yes, I do have confirmation on YouTube. And hopefully people from X or slash Twitter are joining as well. So just to give them a couple of seconds until everybody sees the
Mhm.
community call. But I guess we're ready to start. So without further ado, hello everyone. Welcome to the 60th community call. I'm Robert, developer advocate at the Starknet Foundation, and I will be your host for today. We're excited to have Nathan, a product manager at Starkware, as I invited the speaker for this session. Our focus for today's discussion is the ERC20 event structure and breaking changes, where we'll take a deep dive into two important StarkNet improvement proposals, namely SNEEP 13, which addresses the ERC20 event structure, and the SNEEP 17, which addresses the breaking changes procedure. For our viewers, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them into the YouTube chat section or X, and we'll do our best to address them. Welcome, Nathan. How are you doing? And how was your day?
Um, and thanks for the introduction, Robert. My day was pretty fine, quite busy. So, also preparing for future talks and stuff. Yeah, so I've joined the Starkware for more than a year now, worked on Stargate and now staking efforts and in the application and infrastructure team in product. So I'm excited. I want to share about the changes we propose, and as they are quite sensitive and have some breaking changes in them, I wanted to explain them thoroughly and why we think it should be done.
Fantastic. And I think you have a presentation for us, so I'll give you the spotlight to present the today's topic. And yeah, without further ado, the mic is yours.
Okay, so hello everyone. Like I said, my name is Nathan. Today we're going to talk about breaking changes, specifically in the ERC20 event structure. So, first question I wanted to always to answer immediately is why? Why would we do it? Why would we, have any breaking changes whatsoever? So I want to make sure we're thinking about making developers' life easier. So I know it's weird. We're saying, okay, I have this. Breaking change, and I think it's going to make developers' life easier. So it's both existing and new developers, and I'll explain why I think this is the case. So currently, when you want to receive all transfer approval events, basically, if you want to track who spends money on Starknet, so you want to track ERC20 transfers, you actually ask for the network to give you all the transfers for the entire blocks. You cannot choose who transferred to who, and you cannot filter it in any complicated way. You just have all the transfers from a specific token in a certain range of blocks, which is pretty annoying, meaning all the filtration happens on your end. So this enhanced filtration or filtering, in a sense, the idea that I wanted to see only transfers from my account or to my account, if I'm a DApp, an exchange, a pool, or whatever, is kind of basic in a lot of other chains. So if we want people to migrate and developers in our ecosystem to have good life as developers in other ecosystems have, I think this feature is quite, I would say, a low-hanging fruit. And lastly, this is currently a diff between some implementations of ERC20s and others on our ecosystem. So currently, if you're a developer and you want to listen or track ERC20 transfers of ETH, Stark, etc., and someone deployed the newest version of ERC20 by OpenZeppelin, you'll actually need to follow two different types of events. So we are already experiencing some differentiation between versioning, which is annoying, and we're lacking basically a very, in my opinion, basic tool that should help developers. So this is the why, basically. So what are we talking about? So I'll dive a bit into the specifics, and I'll start with the background. So events generally generated from smart contracts and on Starknet have consist of two arrays. One is keys and one is data. It used to be the case that so keys are like topics in Ethereum. So I think you're familiar with them, the topic 0 and all the topic 1, topic 2 you can add to your event. And basically, it used to be the case that in Cairo, you would only have one keyed field in the event. So basically, it would be the event name, and that's it. So this is why the earlier standards of ERC20 had only the event name being keyed, and all other information in the event was just thrown away into the data section. So the data section is not split into different subsections. It's just a blob of data you need to sift through to understand what's written there. And the key data is basically where each compartment, each field that is keyed can be filtered upon. So it used to be the case that Cairo only supported one keyed field in an event, and now it's not. And I don't know if it's too deep of a dive, but basically when I use the JSON RPC and Starknet, I can filter by keyed events, by the keys of an event using the get events method. So everything that is keyed, like the event name, can be filtered upon. So I can say I want only transfer events, but because the from and to fields are not keyed, I cannot filter depending on who sent the actual transfer or to who it sent. So the proposed change, basically taking all of the main tokens used on Starknet, ETH, Stark, USDC, all the Stargate connected tokens, and add more stuff, more indexes to the, more fields to the keyed section of the event, which is quite trivial. Specifically, it's adding the from and to in the transfer event and the owner and spender in the approval events. And like I said, this would enable you to filter by sender or receiver of the transfer events. So up until now, it sounds very basic, like a very boring, I would say, feature that we should have had a long time ago, and we're now able to do it. So what's blocking us? And the main thing that is blocking us is backward incompatibility. So we are hesitant and we don't want to implement abruptly without discussions, without explaining the reasoning, something that is a breaking change. So I want to explain in what sense it is a breaking change. So, this is the main disclaimer. It's in the name of this lecture. It is a breaking change. So what would actually happen? So every app or DApp or backend or whatever that listens to ERC transfer events or approval events would basically have to adjust to the new event decoding, because it would try to look for the to or from data inside a specific array when actually it's on the other array. So it won't be able to understand what the events mean anymore. But the good news is, first, nothing at the smart contract level breaks. So because it's only around events, it's only backends and applications and JavaScript applications that can be changed really easily. So no smart contract breaking, and also supporting both types, or I would say both version of events, is quite easy. So I think preparing to this change is adding 1 or 2 lines of code, basically adding an if before you track the event and say, oh, if it has this amount of keyed fields in it, or that amount of keyed fields in it, I would treat it differently. And in that way, you'll support both, and we can upgrade easily without any problems. So it's a very, I would say, low-hanging fruit feature, something that is classic and expected on every chain. We currently don't have it. And the issue is it would need some, you need to adapt to it, but it's a very, very easy process to adapt. So I don't know if there's any questions. Robert, if there were any comments, I would see them.
Yeah, that's one. There is a comment about fee refund event, but I'm not entirely sure if it's within the topic of today.
Oh, fee refund specific event. I think that all the fees related events are because of the fee token, so either ETH or Stark. So I would assume, it's just events from the ERC20. So maybe the Block Explorer is able to know which event is an actual activity that I did and which event is from the fee on top of it, but because it always goes to the sequencer. So I can tell the difference, but the event structure themselves are the same for fees or for transfers. It's the same. It is a transfer from you to the sequencer.
Gotcha. And I have a question on the backwards incompatibility. So basically, what potential like issues could arise from the lack of backwards compatibility, and how might developers or projects could mitigate these potential issues?
Okay, so an example would be, I think, like a central exchange, or would be classical classic example, because every time someone deposits money to the exchange, they want to track and make sure there's an event of a transfer that actually this deposit happened, and only then their backend would open them an account and do all this stuff. And if the centralized exchange is not aware of someone transferring money to it, so it would just, the user would lose his funds altogether. And I think basically every app that is not 100% on chain, which is like either if you're not a Uniswap, if you're not an AMM, if you have some kind of backend, you would break in some ways, because listening to transfers is very basic. So sometimes you listen to more complicated, I would say, functions, but a lot of the monitoring goes around actual, fee transfers or just transfers. So yeah.
That makes sense. And we have an additional question, and the question is like, don't you think part of the issue is also that the first key is only the name of the event and not also its type, like EVM, for example?
Okay. Yeah. So the lack of uniqueness of our topic 0 or our, in a sense, event name key is it's kind of related. I'm not saying it's not related. I think also if it would be unique, you'd still have this issue of not being able to filter of the to and from. But it's an issue of itself. I agree that it should be fixed. And there's several ways to do it that are actually not backward incompatible. So an example would add another extra key to all events, which would be the unique identifier, not so on top of the event name. But these are all, just my suggestions, and I already brought it up internally, and I totally agree that it's something to consider how to support. I would not want to change the event name key. I would want to add another key. So in that sense, it would be just not backward compatible, basically.
That makes sense, and not to break things. Yeah, makes sense. And also, like, if you're interested, like for our attendees or viewers to participate in these conversations, I put a link to the SNP 13 proposals, and you can chat about this. But yeah, thank you.
Cool, thank you. Okay, so how? Basically, we are following the procedures of the breaking change SNP 17. It's basically what I'm doing. So we already published a SNP. It's called SNP 13. I published it a few months ago. It got some traction, some comments. We published it in Telegram groups whatsoever, but I want to go there and comment and share ideas. One of the first comments was like, can you please upgrade this incrementally, token by token in a sense? And the answer was yes. It was a very good idea. So getting ideas from the community is appreciated and literally super helpful. So it's not only appreciated, it's important. So we want to bind this with 13.3 version of StarkNet. And the idea here is there's a lot of changes, some of them breaking changes, some of them are not, with version updates. And we want the developer experience to be such that he can focus his attention on specific version releases instead of, every 2 weeks or 3 weeks, he hears about something else and needs to adapt. So there's no real connection between upgrading ERC20 contracts on StarkNet and StarkNet 13.3. It's a connection we intentionally made because we think it makes for a better developer experience to know when stuff might break and when you need to be alerted and when you can take a month off, in August and not hear about anything and everything will be okay, which is totally reasonable. So that's the binding with 13.3, which I think is very important. This community call, discussing and hearing feedback and basically pointing you to the relevant places to continue this discussion. After that, if we feel that the overall sentiment is good, we'll start communication rounds, basically sending to dApps, sending in Telegram groups we know, just amping up the communication rounds, adding all this information to the StarkNet v13 communications, so there's always these changes and diffs in every version update, so we'll add this to it. And if all goes well, the actual upgrade would be testnet, and then mainnet with only a few tokens. So basically, we'll try to find some tokens that have traction, but not too much. So not ETH, USDC and such, something a bit more low key. I would, WST ETH or something that is not, with not insane TVL. So if people might break, even they didn't notice everything, it won't break on ETH or Stark or Fee tokens or something severe. And then we'll upgrade all the other tokens. So that's the basic plan. And yeah, so I think right now it's something that more of a discussion points. So I'll play the devil's advocate. So I just explain why we need this change. And I think the immediate response should be like everyone in the ecosystem is used to it and has walked around it already. Like why would I care? Why would, you asked me to change something, but obviously everybody solved this issue, this painful issue, but they solved it already. So why should we care? And I think it's connected to a larger discussion about legacy. So basically keeping legacy, which is not relevant, is bad for an organizations. So if you are an agile and good ecosystem that wants to adapt, that's a very positive, and you can see it across a lot of different fields in life. So either economics or technological companies, if they continue to tag along more and more legacy that is not justified, it's something that it's only the way we implemented it in the past, but basically there's a much better way to implement it now, and it's just not comfortable. I think this is not a good symptom, and I would try to make us be at the best game we can be. And this also relates to the fact that I believe that StarkNet is currently underappreciated. I believe that tons of developers that are not aware of what they are doing would want to join, and it would hurt them. And I think we should think about these people that currently are not in the game and they're not thinking about StarkNet because, I don't know, tons of different reasons. They don't understand that we are a very, very good technology stack and we are an amazing network with an amazing ecosystem. I want to think also about them. So I think internally, it doesn't make sense. And also maintaining these solutions are kind of annoying. But every engineer would argue that a change is more annoying. So I can't argue with specific solutions that people implemented. It's just my opinion that even as an engineer, you'd be able to say, okay, that's just an easier solution of maintaining, putting all this load on the RPC and full nodes and not putting all this logic behind the scenes is just a nuisance. So again, I play the devil's advocate. I understand it, but my personal opinion is we should update it. Okay.
No question from the audience, but yeah, I do, like, just to give my 2 cents here, I do agree that even if there are some breaking changes, I think it's necessary for the long-term plan and sustainability for StarkNet and bringing more developers and people from other ecosystems. And even though it's a bit, not necessarily annoying to get used to new changes, but overall it's helpful to get better filtering on the events, especially of the transfers and approvals. So I do agree as well.
Cool. Where can you discuss this change? Amazing. I think the community blog post. So can we share links? Robert, if I'll share a link to you, would you be
Yes. I already shared the SNP 13 discussion. So
yeah, so I think please comment there in SNP 13 comment section, and I think that's the best place.
Yes. So the link is in the YouTube chat. I'm not sure if I were able to share it on X, but on YouTube I shared it.
Oh, but he's from X, so let's try to make sure he get the link. I think if you'll just Google SNP13 StarkNet, you'll find it. But Robert, if you can also share it on X, it would be amazing.
Yeah, I'll do that now. Okie dokie. Then I think we can go to the next topic as well.
Yeah. Okay, so I think in the discussion points, so it's kind of assuming we are going to do it, but if we are going to do it, how would you make sure everybody knows? And basically, if you have any more ideas of how to implement. So these are the two discussion points. I told you what I plan to do, and there's so much, I think, ecosystem products that I know of. So yeah, you know, and Starcore in general. So it's not only me. I'm contacting all the community managers, and you know, I'm trying to spread the word. But basically, it's a decentralized, like it's a permissionless network. Everybody can join and deploy and have an app. And I'm probably not going to reach everybody. So if you have any idea of how can I reach larger audiences, it would be great. And if you have an idea of how to implement specifically, it will also be great. So that's just discussion points.
Cool. Yeah. All the links have been shared, so people, if they want to be part of this conversation and these changes, they can join the community on starknet.io, and they can propose any discussions and changes. Also, like if there's any, you know, objections or comments from the audience regarding these two SNP proposals, the 13 and the 17, feel free to post them in the chat section, or you can still participate in the community forum as well.
Okay. Yeah, so that's about it. I added like the further reading, but basically you cannot. These links are already been sent. Yeah. So thank you for joining, and that's all I had to say.
Fantastic, Nathan. Maybe just one question from my end. Besides these two community links or blog posts, do you think like what's the best way to get updated, for example, with the new versions coming, or staying like updated overall with Starknet news?
So that's a great question. So I think our developers community letter. So there's a developer newsletter list you can join, and it every Starknet updates and many more informations and relevant information is there. So I think the newsletter is a great place to be updated. What else would be like a very easy place to check out? You know, following our X, basically you'll hear about all the different versions and stuff. It's just extra links. It's not very directed at, you know, it deep dives sometimes. So it depends on the actual publication. Yeah, I think the newsletter is the broadest and most permissionless way to join us. And join our Discord. Oh, join our Discord. The Starknet Discord channel. Yeah, that's great place to hear a lot of stuff.
Fantastic. Yeah, definitely the newsletter is super helpful, and I've shared that in the chat. The Discord, I believe you can access to Starknet.io, but yeah, feel free to join us and then participate in our talk. I think overall, like we're kind of like reaching an end of the community call. If there are no other questions, maybe if Nathan, you have any closing remarks for our viewers regarding these two SNP proposals.
Can you repeat, man? I misheard.
Do you have any, you know, closing remarks about these SNP proposals to our users?
So basically, I think it would really show how we as a community handle these stuff. I think we are trying to make an example of how it should be done. It's a very small change. It doesn't break anything on a smart contract level, but we want to make it like the best implementation of a breaking change we can think of. So just help us make it this, so everybody would know, and no smart contract would be broken. And if something is broken, we fixed easily, and people would adapt early. And you know, just let's make it as smooth as possible, basically.
Fantastic. Well, Nathan, thank you once again for being here. It was an insightful discussion, and I'm looking forward to these two proposals. To our viewers, thank you for joining and tuning into the 60th community call. And yeah, don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter, join the Discord, and stay up to date with all the StarkNet related news and version updates. Wishing everybody a fantastic day. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Robert, for hosting.
Anytime.